Rhode Island is a legendary tier American battleship and one of two ships you can claim for free upon completing the December 2025 campaign. We'll cover the other one at a later time, but I'll tell you right off the bat, I really like Rhode Island. It's one of my favorite ships on World of Warships PC, and I'm happy to report that what we've got here now in Legends is a pretty faithful translation of what you get on PC, and that, in my book, is a good thing because Rhode Island is pretty unique. We'll run down the specs, but keep in mind they will be influenced by my commander build. It's William Sims, trying to use free-to-play builds on all of these campaign ships. Although, if I had my choice, I'm probably going to use Takanashi Hoshino as time goes on because I think she's got the potential to make this ship pretty cracked. But Sims, he works just fine, as you'll see by the results of this battle. Our concealment is our inspiration, of course. We've got Kondo and Swirsky as the two inspirations on Sims rather than anybody else. You can disagree with that build, but I think I've done enough explaining over the years of why I think concealment is a good thing to spec into on battleships, particularly this one. And a lot of that has to do with the main downside of the Rhode Island, which is its survivability, or perhaps lack thereof. Now, with Sims at the helm, we've got 90,000 HP, but base is 87.5k. Pretty low numbers for a legendary tier battleship. And on top of that, while this does look an awful lot like a Georgia hull, it's got 27mm bow and stern armor, which of course can be overmatched by the likes of pretty much any battleship you're going to encounter, except for other Rhode Islands and Borgonia, I guess, but everything else can pretty much go right through that 27mm bow. Now the side armor, the upper belt, and the deck, those are 38, so you can angle that against even all the Ackies that you're about to see out there. I've had a number of Ackies shoot at my angled side armor and bounce, so it's not like the ship can't protect itself, but in order to really bait those shells into the side armor, you probably need to be at more medium to longer ranges, which is how we're going to start off this particular battle. But don't worry, even though this is going to be a bit of a slow burn to begin with, we're going to push in near the end and do a lot of damage as we do that. Now, the superstructure, actually, I should also mention, that is gigantic and very susceptible to eating a lot of pens. So, yeah, you don't really want to be focused down in this ship. I don't think you'll last for too long, which is why it requires you to play it a little bit more passively, at least in the beginning of the battle. Now, the guns, which you might be looking at the 14,935 damage and thinking to yourself, that's not impressive. But this thing is a damage dealer. You keep it living for long enough, you shoot long enough with it, it's going to print damage, just as it does on PC. What we've got here are 12 356mm guns, and I'm sure there's a huge segment of the player base that's going to say 356mm guns, that's too small for a battleship at legendary tier. That's what they said about Borgonia. But if you're going to look at one singular number and dismiss the ship because of that, I don't know what to tell you. These are fantastic guns. They are four guns in 3 turrets, quadruple turrets, 2 on the front, 1 on the back. They have a 19.1 kilometer range and a base reload time of 22 seconds. Now, of course, we're using the artillery plotting room mod in the 4th slot rather than the reload mod. But if we did use that, and if we use somebody like Takanashi Hoshino, I think we can get the reload into the mid to low teens, like heavy cruiser numbers. It's already pretty close to that. I think there are some super heavy cruisers with like a 22-second reload or thereabouts. This is a lot of DPM to sling downfield, and these guns are accurate too. I believe they've got battle cruiser dispersion, so don't let the 1.79 Sigma fool you, though that's not exactly a great value for a battleship. But the dispersion, I do believe, is battle cruiser, and so a lot of times these guns feel pinpoint accurate to me. Now, we've been mostly firing HE, which you'll probably have to do against a lot of angled battleship targets, until you can get their broadsides and use the AP. But the HE is pretty good. We've got an HE alpha of 5k with a 31% fire chance, which maybe sounds low, but keep in mind these are 12 guns that you're firing at least every 22 seconds. So the 31% fire chance is good. We've already got 2 fires lit so far, and this salvo here on the enemy Aki, well, there's another 2. We've just doubled it. So it's a good fire chance on these guns. It can burn people down pretty easily. And then the AP, the Alpha is 9500, and it does have improved pen angles with a minimum ricochet angle of 50 degrees. I think the AP is especially lethal against cruisers, even ones that are not, well, almost angled properly, but not quite. It can be very devastating, and even against broadside battleships, which we'll see a little bit later on in this battle. I think the guns are overall excellent, but we do have secondary guns, and one of the consumables is the Enhanced Secondary Targeting Consumable 2, which is a little bit improved over the regular one and gives you some more accuracy and DPM on the secondaries. But these are 10 127mm guns, typical American destroyer caliber, or size rather. And we've built into them a little bit, using the secondary mod in the first slot, but pretty much nothing else. And with that, we've got 9-kilometer range on the secondaries. I don't really want to spec much further into it than that, because I don't think this is the kind of ship that you're going to be taking into close brawling range on purpose most of the time. It just doesn't really have the armor to do that. But the secondaries are useful in another way, because we've also got, in the third consumable slot, radar. Now, you can trade out the radar for an engine boost, if you so choose, or for a plane. I don't know why you would ever trade it out for a plane, but maybe the engine boost, which gives you an 8% buff. But the radar is a 9.5-kilometer radar with a duration of 30 seconds. 9.5-kilometer radar, 9-kilometer secondaries. You can see the synergy there. And if you reveal a destroyer with the radar, with those secondaries, you can pretty much guarantee that they are in range. And these are pretty accurate secondaries too, much like what you would find on the Ohio. I should have mentioned the heal in the survivability section, but this thing does have 3 heals base. They're not exactly special. They have 454 HP per second for 28 seconds, and they have a reload time of 80 seconds. So I don't think they're the quick cooldown heals like what it's got on PC, but that's okay. It probably doesn't need those. So the secondaries, while they are maybe a highlight and something Wargaming clearly wants you to focus on with the design of the ship, I think you just use the secondary mod and call it good. If your secondary range is the same as your radar, then you get pretty good use out of them. The AA, well, I'm happy to report that I did fight a midway with this thing, and it pre-dropped me before it hit me with some torpedoes on the second drop, and by the time it swung around to get the third drop, the AA had shot down all the remaining planes. Amazing. But yeah, that's all I've got to say about the AA. The maneuverability on this thing, 33 knot maximum speed, 890 meter turning circle, and 12.7 second rudder shift, although the base is 12.1. Oh, the radar. There's a Velos out there. He's within our radar range. You can see the secondaries opening up. He smokes up, not aware that Rhode Island has radar. Unfortunate for him, because he is going to go down for our first kill of the game. That is the magic of the radar on a battleship. It's nice to have. That is a good argument right there for why you probably want to pick the radar over the engine boost. Oh, and look at this. Broadside Akis. These guys are going to be afflicted by terminal bow tanking syndrome as we see them proliferate through the game. And, well, when they're tunnel vision like that, I guess that result wasn't too great with the AP. You might see that and think it's not fantastic, but don't worry, the next AP salvo will be. I suppose that's good to point out in this video, because while I think these guns are excellent and pretty accurate for the most part, sometimes you're going to get low rolls of the dice right there. That's 5 billion torpedoes that these Akis are dropping. This thing is about to be super annoying. There's a decent salvo there, though, against the Hindenburg, but you can see as we push in here the rather low survivability. The Hindenburg can shred us with the HE or the AP, so I want to get around this island to make sure he can't shoot at me anymore, and we're about to have a broadside Aki who is concealed by the smoke screens set by his deceased destroyer. But Aki is of course a Yamato, so it's got the cheek. There it goes. 3 citadels, 158,000 damage. Not bad results for these guns, I would say. Concealment, we should mention that, 12.5 with my build. I am, of course, running concealment module, and I already mentioned, I think, the two inspirations are Kondo and Swirsky. It's actually got better concealment on PC. I can get it down to 12.3, and I think this battleship, with the lack of armor, benefits even more than most battleships. From a concealment build, I've already explained why I think that's valuable. I don't think we need to rehash here. You can do whatever you want with the concealment, but without Kondo, with Kondo, I should put it this way, and concealment mod, we get 13 kilometers without Kondo, and just the concealment mod, it's probably going to be 13.7, 13.8. I don't think that's exactly what you want when you've got no armor and a low HP pool like this, but your mileage may vary. Do what you will. Spec into double accuracy inspirations if you want. You clearly don't need them, though. Anyway, Rhode Island is sort of like an ultra-heavy mega radar cruiser more than a battleship, and you probably need to play it that way, with a little bit of caution, protecting the bow, and utilizing the DPM and radar when you can push in. And as you can see, we are able to push in. It just requires paying attention to the map and picking the right time and the right area to push into. The results we got against the two Ackies should pretty much demonstrate that. And here, well, we can see maybe a problem with the ship. There's a Hindenburg out there. It's not exactly like the damage with the AP is impressive. Hindenburg can protect himself pretty well if he's bow on. But you know what the solution to that is? 22-second reload. Simply switch to the HE. And the HE, well, it's got 59 millimeters of pen. It's going to pen Hindenburg everywhere. Of course, he turns broadside as I shoot it. But, you know, it pens everywhere. And there he goes. 7 pens, he's dead. That's our second kill of the game. 173,000 damage done now. And it's just the enemy Montana left in the distance, who spent the entire battle kiting to the back of the map for reasons I don't really understand, and is going to shoot HE at us, inexplicably, this entire time. I do not get that at all. Maybe he saw me shooting HE at him and he thought, oh, that's a great idea, but he's going to prolong our survivability, and at this point, we're just farming damage. So my final verdict on the Rhode Island as we push in toward this Montana to improve our damage done, I think this is an excellent ship. It's unique in terms of battleships. I know it's another American one, and there are people who are very sick of seeing how many American battleships we get in the Legendary tier. That's understandable. But this, with its small guns, quick reload time, good maneuverability, radar, secondaries, it's just such a unique package that I wouldn't want to pass it up, personally. I love the ship on PC. It's pretty similar to what it is there, or what it is here. And, well, there's nothing to not like, in my opinion, except for maybe the low survivability and the need to play this ship passively, at least some of the time, most of the time, you could say. That's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, so you might want to go for the Sevastopol instead. But if you're just looking at the 27mm bow armor and the small guns, there's more to look at than just that. We finished the battle with nearly 200,000 damage done, high caliber, Confederate. I think even the Dreadnought medal and fireproof. Maybe not the Dreadnought medal, that's interesting. 2,400 base XP, not a bad result at all. That's the highest damage I've done so far, but I'm sure with the DPM on this thing, it is capable of doing well over 200k. Gonna test it out with Takanashi Hoshino as time goes on, but if you want my personal pick, I would choose this thing every time over the Sevastopol to get it for free. Maybe buy the Sevastopol if you really want it after that, but Rhode Island, I really like the thing. So let me know what you think. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.